And we're back.
Hey, Sean.
Have you been dreaming about this since the last episode, Bill?
I haven't slept since the last episode.
That's a lot. I'm worried.
Very
Yeah.
worried about
you drove here
how
today?
I want to see how it ends.
What kind of drugs are you on, Bill?
None.
It's like a 3-day bender.
Yeah. We recorded on Monday. It's now
People
Thursday.
listening don't know that. They didn't.
Oh, you're going for the magic of TV kind of thing, magic of audio here, huh?
That's right. Magic of pod.
Magic
of pod.
Pod magic. Well, we're back today. We're here to talk about. We're joined by Tessa. You've heard Katie. We're back today to talk about the second half of where we left off last time. The second half of the topic from last time and where we left off, which is we started last time with the measurement of compensation, and we talked about the survey of what people responded with, how they measure, how their HR teams are measured. Those kind of topics, go back and listen if you want to hear the full thing. But we left off with where we started to get into some of the more prescriptive, maybe, or operational types of talk with it. So not like what's going on out there, but really if you want
like real life takeaways.
If you want to think about how to apply this, here's some ways.
Now what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at you, Bill.
So what I wanted to talk about today, though, was when we did that survey, I wanted to start with this. We heard a lot of what I would say, we called it the good stuff. It was just the interesting responses that was kind of directionally accurate from people of how they were measuring today. And I wanted to use that as a launch point because I wanted to just talk about it quickly. There was some interesting stuff in there. And look, I'll readily just tee this up. Not all of these are going to apply to every company, depending on your industry, your size, your role, what the company believes, blah, 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 blah. This is going to be a little different.
What the company does.
Touche. But these are more, consider these. Use them as ideas, maybe brainstorms.
I feel like it's like a starting point.
Yeah, if these apply to you, great. If there's something you can take from this to help it apply to your situation, awesome. So the good stuff that we had that we can talk about these individually. I'll just run through the list. Scorecard of turnover rates, key retention rates, and return on comp investment. If what I'm doing aligns with my company goals, meeting the business objectives. This looks like another scorecard. Engagement / satisfaction / ENPS. It's not a scorecard. Engagement / satisfaction / ENPS or employee net promoter score. So how happy are your employees or satisfied are they? HR KPIs, business growth, and then they parentheses directly aligned with employee growth. And then the efficiency of current plans as a driver of business growth. Again, can you execute, I think, my interpretation, can you execute well on what you need to do to help the business grow? All of these I would say are good stuff because they're directionally aligned with mapping to larger goals, making sure the business is doing well, thinking about the effect that you can have on what the business cares about.
From the HR or compensation department of an organization.
Yeah, so like my interpretation of HR KPIs was compensation aligning with HR KPIs.
Right.
And now the hope there is that HR is also aligning with the broader company goals,
Right.
but there's that waterfall or cascading effect there.
Right.
I feel like we should also address the fact that like these problems aren't, yes, our survey and what we're talking about here today is unique to compensation, and that's what we looked at, but you see this stuff happening like across lots of different departments where there's just that misalignment. And
Oh, yes.
Bill has experience in this, though, where if there's a breakdown of, if there's not cascading goals, right, then that's almost certainly a recipe for dysfunction.
Absolutely. You get, one side of the organization is doing one thing and achieving its goals, and the other side's going completely different direction. And, you obviously lose a lot of efficiency, and, the end result is rarely good.
Yeah, right. For many reasons, whether or not like somebody's like, hey, I achieved my goals, that unlocks my bonus, but wait, the company didn't hit its target,
Right.
so what does that matter?
Exactly.
Right. Or your goals are meaningless. They don't really apply to anything that the company's
Right.
trying to drive.
Or you achieving your goals gets in the way of me achieving mine. That can very well happen.
have you
Yeah.
been somewhere where that has happened?
Absolutely.
Cool. I'll just leave it at that. All right.
There's a big pregnant pause there. One of the interesting things that was on here, though, the last one that I have not yet read, is SMART goals, and SMART being all caps as an acronym for something. And the reason why I didn't read that yet is, to me, it's interesting, and it's everything and nothing. It's a framework, right? It's a framework that should apply to everything, but in and of itself, it's nothing. Right? So SMART goals, SMART, means specific. That, in other words, your goal is it's detailed, it's meaningful, like we were just talking about, like it might map to the broader company goals. It's measurable so that you can track your progress and success. That's the M. The A is attainable. It should be realistic to reach that goal. And you should have the resources and tools available to do that. R, it's relevant. It should align with departmental or company goals or both. And then finally, T is it's time-based. It shouldn't exist forever. It should have a deadline. So every goal should be that. Every goal should be a SMART goal, and that's a good framework to think about, right?
Right, and that's good for not just, compensation and performance, but,
Across
pretty
the
much
board.
any goal you have, you should think about it that way, because it's about making sure the goal does what it's intended to do, which is getting a result.
If I want to win the axe throwing championship in Scandinavia,
It's very specific,
yeah,
that goal.
of course, I should set SMART goals, right? They should be very specific,
Yes?
measurable.
Yes?
Yeah. I mean,
And
Again.
actually, I mean, if you think about like someone who wants to go train for a marathon, which maybe this is where you were going with your axe throwing since that's physical, but like that is how you would approach even like setting up a training schedule for that, something like that. Like
so you're saying I should run a marathon while throwing axes?
That's
I
exactly
don't.
what
I
she's
think that's
saying.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I said. Yep. Hmm.
I want to move to Scandinavia for that one, so maybe.
Remote work.
But so it should be a good framework. And with that said, what I wanted to get into is probably 4 different ways that we can think about maybe using that framework to measure compensation, to, by the way, if we can do this well and the goals fall within that, when they're measurable and they fall within that framework, it makes it way easier to communicate what the hell you're actually doing. So the specific ways that we thought of, and we're open to thoughts on this, coffee@payfactors.com if you want to give us your thoughts and ideas on this topic. The 4 that we came up with are, and we'll dive into each of these, reverse the here's your budget process, tie to business goals, know the cost of your turnover, and then what those kind of let you do is use compensation as a strategic weapon. So it's no longer reactive. You can be more proactive and thoughtful and strategic about it. So let's dive into that first one, which is the here's your budget, which is the classic bill. It typically comes down from the board, right? Here's your budget for this year.
Right, or, from leadership team, C-suite. Yeah, and it's like...
They set the budget, and that's go figure out what you want to do with it, but that's it.
Right, yeah, and this is... I think we've beaten this to death, but here's 3% for salary
It's based on
increases,
everybody getting 3%.
or here's the bonus, the entire company bonus pool, or this is how much we'll allocate. And so I'm guessing what you're saying by reverse the budget, reverse the here's your budget process is say this is what we compensation people think the budget should be for 2021, and this is why. So it's like you put in your ask, say, we would like to do this. And, it's not a land grab, not get as much money as you can. It's what do you need to keep your top performers? What do you need to attract the right people to do whatever's in the plan for the next year to get people up to where they should be?
Yeah, that's right. It's not to say the other way or the traditional way is wrong. There might be a lot of that you apply. That might cover 80% of your population. That, hey, here's the 3% increase or whatever. Each team can increase by this much, and some people are going to get nothing, some people are going to get 10%, right? But it's to say exactly that. What is key to your business, and how is that changing? So if you have an engineering team that's critical to the future of your business, you need to know what the market is for them, and not just give them probably a 3% raise, but really, we've seen, for example, data scientists change by 15% in less than a year, right? You need to monitor that, understand it, and communicate that up to the board so that that part's taken into account within that budgeting process. Help influence it, help add strategic thoughts to what they're doing.
Yeah, some of those jobs to your point, change 3% a quarter or sometimes even 3% a month. And so you got to know what's going on. And I think that the comp person's, I guess, key role there is keep your fingers or keep your mind in the market, know what's going on and where you're going to need more than a typical salary increase or, more money for salaries. And also, so keep a dialogue going with your line managers and also with finance, with the CFO or whoever's doing the budgeting process. And don't wait till you get the first draft of a budget to ask for more. Keep the dialogue going and saying, go to your CFO and say, hey, we're looking at, this team is going to need a big increase. Our competitors are paying more. We're having a hard time recruiting, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you're thinking it should be, an extra $500,000 or, we need at least 6% this year.
Yeah, the root of that is who's key to attract and retain,
right.
And what do we need to do that?
Right.
The rest, 80% of it otherwise might be fine to do what's traditionally done. It's just flag these and have that conversation. 2 points.
But it's a continuing process or continual process, not a
continual conversation.
Not a once a year. Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Continual conversation.
And I think doing this also, we've talked a lot on this podcast about transforming from a analyst to a comp strategist and really having a seat at the table. And not only will having these conversations and monitoring roles and things like that allow you to influence and help define what you're measured on, but it's also going to help you have that seat at the table with the C-suite and those that matter at your organization.
Yeah.
You just mentioned go to your CFO.
This is one of the clearest ways, I think, to kind of confirm to leadership the value of comp in your organization. It's clear cut numbers, obviously impacting retention and recruiting for the best. Yeah.
Which, going back to Monday's podcast, is a top business objective.
Yeah.
And it starts to tie into the next thing, which was tie into business goals. I'm not trying to use tie into. Tie
Yes,
into
you are.
business goals. Okay.
There's a lot of time
But
in here.
we've talked about this a lot on previous podcasts, and we covered it a little bit in the last one as well. But over the years, we've talked with a lot of compensation professionals about how they're measured in their roles. And the trend we started to notice is that, this was true in the data too, a lot of people weren't measured at all, or the KPIs that they were measured against were fairly ambiguous. They didn't tie into really the drivers of the business, right? And so...
Which is shocking. Sorry to interrupt, but just shocking given that how important compensation is. It's the biggest cost in an organization.
Typically.
How is this? It's just...
I have an answer that nobody wants to hear.
Ooh, here we go.
That it's
Bill with the
Strap in, folks.
controversial.
Well, no, it's the sign of, a cost center that's not necessarily well understood or respected in the organization. And, and that's our own fault for not communicating and not letting, the people in the organization understand the value we're providing and what we can do. And if we're going to say we need more money for our salary increases so that we can, improve our retention numbers, we better make sure that we are A, measuring retention numbers, and B, that they improve, means they go down. No, retention goes up. Sorry, turnover goes down.
Before you tie into business goals, Bill, understand which way we're going with what.
Yeah, whatever. Everything needs to go up.
Which direction do you want us to go,
Everything
Bill?
needs to go up or down.
It needs to go up and to the right all the time.
Retention up, turnover down.
But that's right, and we cover this at the top. Tying into these goals helps you have that conversation more easily. But you're absolutely correct. Make sure you're measuring it, communicating out how that's going.
Right.
And in that case, it is one of the things that impacts retention and turnover.
Right.
It might be tough to do a direct correlation, but if
just showing the result would be good. Just doing that.
True.
Maybe not a low key victory lap.
A low key one though, really slow.
Yeah, exactly.
The victory lap supported by data.
I like it. I like it.
But yeah, tie in as closely as you can. We talked about this a little bit last time of what typical business drivers are and what they might care about. As closely as you can, tie into those, or if not tying in, certainly have conversations with the heads of the departments about those and what they care about, and figure out how you can support them and what they're trying to do. Just makes the conversation easier. It showcases the value of what you're doing, makes it easier for other people to understand. Across
And
the
one
board,
little,
good things.
one little pointer to stick in the back of your mind is be careful of the time you run into the boss and go, this is great. We've won every time we tried to recruit from one of our competitors, we win, because, the CEO, the
We're
CFO
overpaying.
hear that and go, we're overpaying. So be careful what
No,
how
it's
your
all the
message is
really good
interpreted.
perks. It's because we got beer on tap.
There you go.
Either
why.
that or that company's going down in flames. one
That's
of
true.
those,
Yes. Well, that is good news then, as if your
If your
competitor.
competitor's going down in flames, yeah.
I mean, we don't wish that on them, but
Rivals, Bill.
Yeah,
Simon
right.
Sinek would say rivals, not competitors.
whatever.
You respect them as rivals.
That comment was full of disdain
And sarcasm.
and sarcasm.
So have smart goals, understand the impact you can have on business goals and communicate them. Reverse the here's your budget process. The other one is know your cost of turnover, because this is, again, one of those drivers that just might help you, A, have better conversations, and B, think through things a little bit differently. And what we mean by this, we can walk through examples, but generally it means this. It's estimated by, the numbers depend on geography and level in the industry and everything, but there's generally a term out there of about 21% cost of turnover. And that's literally the cost to replace somebody. That's ignoring lost productivity, that's ignoring ramp time of the next person, that's assuming that you could replace somebody for the same cost, but
Which is unlikely.
maybe. But even if that's the case, it might be easier just to give them a little bit of a raise. If you bump them from the 50th to the 55th, for example, that might cost you 5 to 7K, whereas the turnover is going to cost you more than that at 21%. So it's have those kind of considerations. Like, don't draw a hard and fast line and not have the conversation or not think through it. Know the cost of your turnover.
And like you said, that 21% wasn't including lost productivity or ramp time or, all these other details that do.
The institutional
into it.
knowledge that person has, if they've
Yeah.
been there for a bit, right? All that kind of stuff.
Was that your top performer?
Bill is.
Bill is number one.
Do they have like special skills that will be difficult to replicate or find in
Yeah.
a replacement?
Yeah. Yep.
Or worse, those special skills now go to one of your rivals.
Rivals.
Rival companies,
That's true.
organizations.
Well, it goes back to that we use this reference all the time, but the Patty McCord reference of the engineer. We can't afford to.
you can't afford to pay him, but can't afford to not pay him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, we need to bump everyone else up too, because this is what this skill is.
The market's
making.
changed, and the
Right.
skill's wildly valuable to everybody, including us. Gotta pay them. Yeah. Which then brings us to the last part, which is, if we're thinking about this in a different way, how do we use comp as a strategic weapon, right? And what I mean by this is, you can look at, and we can analyze some businesses out there, some of the leading businesses today. Even if you look at the FANG ones, right? Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. It's gonna have to change since Google's alphabet now. Fine.
Fana,
Oh, kind of
Fana.
like Fanta. Does someone have a T? Let me get-
Tesla.
Ah, there you go. Orange soda.
All right, so we're gonna go with Fanta now. But when you look at them, they understand how to wield comp as a strategic weapon. You could even throw, we've talked about this before in the podcast, like hedge funds in there that are just like,
Right.
don't care what I gotta pay because I'm
What's
gonna
the
get the return
example?
on that.
They always pay at the 100th percentile.
95th or something like that.
Something absolutely absurd.
Just don't care because the return's there is generally what it
And
it
we're
is.
gonna make you work 1 million hours a week, but we're paying you an absurd amount of money to do it.
Right.
They-
Or as long as you do your job, you're going to get paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then because I don't want to have to worry about. I don't want to have to worry about replacing you and training somebody new, or
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
They know
It's
how to
done.
measure the return on investment. They use comp that way then as a strategic weapon because of that. They
Right.
know they're
Although
getting
the
return on
the
it.
problem that all of those side of the world has is that they all do the same thing, and therefore it's not
True.
it's not. They haven't
Interesting.
effectively weaponized comp. They've just escalated. And it's sort
Yeah.
of they're just costing everyone a lot of money.
But they're making
Tell
sure.
us how you really feel, Bill.
No. I mean, it's sort of like if everybody does that, pays at
Yeah.
the 95th percentile, which don't write in about that. I understand everyone can't pay at the 95th percentile.
Because then it becomes the median.
But what happens is they're just climbing their way up.
Right.
You know, and everyone's outdoing the last
kind of almost.
one.
This kind of reminds me of like the Amazon warehouse comes into your town, and now everyone's making $15 an hour. So even if minimum wage is below 15, like, well, sorry, but Apple effectively just set your minimum wage to $15 an hour.
Right, the town's minimum wage goes up to 15.
Yeah.
Opposite end of
close.
the spectrum, but yeah, same problem.
Yeah, very opposite end of the spectrum.
But yeah, what they're doing by paying at that level generally is at least keeping them within the industry. It's going to be tough to go somewhere else.
Right.
That's a good
So
point.
even if somebody else poaches your talent, you could poach somebody else's, and it's not right. I mean, it's keeping that part sheltered. There's some kind of a protective barrier.
That's
around
interesting. You're right. If you're in a role that's at that level, you never will leave.
Now you want to have an interesting podcast.
No.
Bill doesn't like interesting podcasts.
Sorry,
I wonder
Sean.
in that kind of situation though with hedge funds, then how do you poach if you're like what's
Every
what's
year
special?
after the bonuses get paid, they all just cross the street, is what they say.
Yep.
They'll all just go somewhere else because they'll give them a slightly better bonus,
They all
or
move.
a title
Or
change
are they leaving it all ever? I'm sure you get, and maybe this is me being super biased, but like I'm sure you get one breed of manager and that kind of, if managers are usually the top reason why someone leaves a company.
There's definitely the
hyper competitiveness.
yes,
Yeah.
and there's also the mama duckling thing. Is like a manager will leave
Whole team
one
goes.
place and the whole team follows because they typically have like a 3-month garden leave.
I was gonna say,
it's
so
like
what do they like
they
negotiate
get paid for
that
3
out of?
months and then they can go compete, which it makes sense in their world because it's usually about investment positions, which
Got it.
Move quickly.
gets stale
Got
after
it.
3 months.
You talked about Amazon. Target does the same thing. But I think back to previously we had Mike Zani on one of these episodes where he said from Predictive Index, where he said that he thinks he gets arbitrage out of, he tries to hire workers in the 90th percentile, so the top 10% of workers, and then pays them at the 75th.
Right.
And so that gives him a competitive advantage in terms of the rest of the market. But he still feels that he's getting arbitrage out of that if you hire
Right.
the top
Well, because
employees.
as we know, like the vast majority of the market's like aiming at the 50th.
Right.
Which is why, top tier performers, 90th percentile performers getting paid 50, 60th percentile are happy to go to somebody paying the 75th.
And then it's around your recruiting processes and retention processes to make sure that you're keeping the right people. And
Right, and you have to make sure that your internal culture environment and even what you're doing, product-wise or service-wise, is something that those people want to be part of.
yeah, there's a passion there
Right.
or motivation. They're
Yes.
aligned well with it, all the kind of intrinsic motivators, if you will.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that we came up with, which was reverse the here's your budget process, tie into business goals, understand the cost of your turnover and how to communicate that, and then start to use it as a strategic weapon. How can you be thoughtful about where you're putting your money and why? All of these are conversations to the point that you made halfway through this, Bill. If you run into your CEO, your CFO, things that they probably care about hearing and would be really interested in diving into some of this stuff.
Yes, and letting them weigh in too. I mean, they of course always have the right and authority to weigh in, but I don't think they're spending their time thinking about compensation plans and alignment of incentives for each little department.
And inviting them to weigh in can, going back to what I said earlier, just further position you as like that strategic partner rather than that cost center, like you were saying, Bill.
Right, it's a dialogue. When you
And it'll start just getting their wheels turning. If they're
Right.
not thinking about it now and you're having these conversations, they're going to be thinking about it, a whole lot more than they are otherwise.
Right, if you raise the issue of how to align incentives for HR with whatever our goals are for 2020, 2021, somewhere down the line in some meeting, the CEO, the CFO, the CTO is going to go, hey, what if we had an incentive that aligned, goals? It's like I talked to Bill about that. Maybe I should talk to him again.
Yeah.
And so now you're a resource. You're somebody who's, added to their knowledge. Trust me, they're not going to replace you. Like your CFO is not going to go, I want to be a comp professional. But they could become a happy and loyal customer, which is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Good customer service internally.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, hopefully these things helped. Again, write us if you have thoughts on this or any feedback on it. It's coffee@payfactors.com. We'll put a link to some of the other events that we did around this survey and the topics in the notes. And be on the lookout for more stuff to come on this topic. It's something that really motivates us to help participate in and solve and bring the community together on. So be on the lookout.
And we talked about some of those kind of measurement checklists throughout this episode, where you've got a written piece of content that's coming out a few more weeks. That's not ready yet, but it will be coming out on this topic. A kind of easy to download piece for you and hang on to. So if that's something you'd be interested in getting, again, coffee@payfactors.com, and just put something along the lines of comp measurement checklist in your email, so we know that you'd like to receive it.
In the meantime, I have to go start training for a marathon while throwing axes. So
good luck.
Watch out on the
you.
streets of Eastern Massachusetts.
Hope you end up with at least 8 out of 10 fingers.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to this quick little series. We'll have more coming soon on other topics that are of interest to Bill.
Just to Bill. This is just Bill's show.
No,
We're
it's
just here.
not.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.